everybody, it's Linnea for Ink on 3. Today I'm going to be using a stamp set and a stencil from the latest Ink on 3 release. So I'm going to start with the Koi Pond stamp set. And I'm going to be stamping all 3 of the little koi as well as some of the air bubbles. So I'm just going to be using my Misty to stamp these out, and I'll be using some of the No Line Fade Out ink. I like to use the Misty when I use this ink because it will stamp super lightly, but you can build up the color. So you're going to see me stamp this 2 or 3 times, and the color will kind of intensify and get darker so that you can see the outline better. And because I'm using watercolor cardstock, so that's why I like to stamp a couple times, just so that I get that ink in all those little nooks and crannies. And then also because I don't see so well, so I build up that color. But because it has this special formula, it will dry back, so it doesn't matter how many times you stamp it. You can stamp it, I stamped it 3 times I believe, and it will still dry back and you'll get this awesome no line coloring effect. I cleaned off that ink using the Ink Off stamp cleaning pad and the Ink Off cloth, perfect for cleaning off any kind of ink. And now I'm just going to do some easy no line watercoloring. I smushed down a bunch of different Atelier inks here. I ended up only coloring with the Marigold Orange ink. I thought that I might bring in some of the Maryland Red and Bee Sting Yellow, but I ended up not needing it because this ink totally does all of the no line work for me. So all I'm going to do is use a small fine detail watercolor brush from Ink on 3. I smushed down that Marigold Orange Atelier ink onto my glass work surface, and then I'm just picking up a little bit of the ink at a time. And I have my Ink Off cloth right off to the side there. So what I'm doing is I'm picking up a more concentrated portion of the color and just outlining where the outline of the image is, so where you can see the ink. And from there I'm just going to pull the color in towards the center of the image so that I have a darker outline and a lighter inside. And I'm going to do this again just so that you can see. But what is so super fun about using these water-based inks with the Fade Out No Line ink is that the ink kind of grabs on to the color. So you're going to see here that all I'm doing is just picking up a little bit of color, and I can just watercolor right over these lines, and where the little hash marks are for the scales and everything, just going to grab that color and hold on to it, and it makes no line coloring absolutely effortless. You could do a bunch more fancy shading if you wanted to, by all means, but I color very simply. And so for me, using this no line ink was intimidating at first because I was like, oh my gosh, well, how am I going to do this when I don't have any fancy coloring skills? But really, you don't need any fancy coloring skills because the ink does the work for you. I'm going to do this one more time using the Peacock Blue Atelier ink just to use these bubbles. And that's where I think you can really see that the outline grabs onto the color of the ink. And then all I have to do is just kind of brush off that ink a little bit on my Ink Off cloth and bring that color out towards the center, and it'll lighten up so you can automatically get a darker outline and a lighter inside. And you can always go back in. I'm going back in and darkening up these little water bubbles because I thought they were a little bit too light. Once I have those done, I'm just going to cut them out using scissors. And now I'm moving on to my background. This is the new Pondy stencil. And I'm going to put this over a piece of white cardstock and just use a foam blending tool to blend on some Goddess Green Atelier ink. I am only going to have to ink up my blending tool once, and I'm going to have enough ink to cover this whole background. These inks are so smooth, they just go on so easily. I'm obsessed with them. I love these inks. And look at that. Now I have a fun green stencil, and these kind of look like water lilies, but I think they also kind of look like limes, so I think you could get a lot of use out of this stencil. I think I'm going to pair this up with some fruits later on. I went ahead and stamped a sentiment from the Koi Pond stamp set, adhered everything with foam squares, and now I'm just adding a little bit of liquid pixie dust, which I keep in a small fine detail watercolor brush from Ink on 3. And that's going to complete my fun little water scene card with these cute little koi. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you again really soon. Bye!